Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Canberra Football Show, episode 79. Russ Gibbs is back with us today. Russ, how's it going? Thanks for joining us. You've been a busy man with all the commentary lately. And how's it all been now? We're officially a third of the way through. Still a few catch-up matches, but mostly there.
Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it? A third of the way through. It's been a good season so far. I've had a really busy time. Today we popped out to St John Paul II College in Nichols with the Australia Cup, and we had hundreds of kids out there taking their photo with the actual Australia Cup, which is sat in my bedroom at the moment, all packed up in the corner there, ready to go to Radford tomorrow, and then it'll go to Canberra Grammar School and Marist as well. We still have a couple of spots left, one on Friday, potentially, and one Monday next week. If anybody out there wants the Australia Cup to visit their school, drop us an email at russ.gibbs@capitalfootball.com.au, and we might be able to bring it to you on Monday ahead of the press conference on Tuesday, and then, of course, our cup final on Saturday week.
You mentioned there June 3rd, I believe, is the date at Deakin Stadium. Correct? It'll be Canberra Olympic versus Canberra Croatia in the men's Oz Cup qualifying final and the Federation Cup final. Just before that, Gungahlin United against Belconnen United. Michael, quite the round we've had today. How's it going?
Doing good, thanks, Matt. Obviously, we were treated to some excellent goals last week in the NPL in particular. And Russ, it was good that you shared some of those cracking goals on your Facebook page, as I'm sure a lot of people got to see if they didn't see it live on Bar TV or if they weren't at the game live themselves. But we were treated to some absolute crackers, and I mean, the non-stop action sort of carried over to this past weekend as well. Some great games, some fantastic goals, and just keen to sort of get into it as always.
Yeah, that is definitely correct. Let's get straight into it. Let's start with O'Connor Knights against Tigers FC. 3-0 to Tigers in this one. Seemed like a tightly contested first half, with both sides having some chances, battling it out before the break, but it was still 0-0. It was Josh Gillespie that broke the deadlock 7 minutes into the second half, 8 minutes into the second half. With his 7th goal of the campaign, Nikos Kalfas whipped a nice ball over the top of the defence for Gillespie to run onto, and he was one-on-one with the keeper, and he buried it. He is now joint top goal scorer with Nick Popovic. Tigers made it 2-0 9 minutes later as Kalfas went for a scintillating run, weaving in and out of defenders as he cut in, struck a shot which deflected off the defender, and it hit the crossbar and bounced off Iran's. So it was recorded as an own goal for Iran's. A little unlucky for him there, but 2-0 to Tigers nonetheless, and a great run as well from Nikos Kalfas. Angelo Santi came very close to halving the deficit 10 minutes later as his header hit the far post, but it did not go past the line. Tigers buried the contest just before the final whistle as Emilio Kishta whipped in a nice corner directly for Ed McCarthy to header it home for 3-0. Impressive win from the Tigers. This is also an important one as they keep pace with Olympic, and they're 3 points behind them in second place, but they still have a match in hand remaining. This loss for O'Connor Knights means they drop to 4th place, tied with Gungahlin, but lead on goal difference. So not all doom and gloom for them, as they've had some really good form leading up to this point. And Tigers on the day, especially in that second half, were just too good, Russ.
Yeah, they were, weren't they, in the second half? But it really could have gone either way. There was the penalty that Josh Gillespie missed that was saved by Seb Arans, and then, of course, Knights went immediately up the other end and had a shout of their own, and there was a fair few people in and around that ground that thought that might have been a penalty for them, and of course it didn't happen. And then 2 minutes later they found themselves 1-0 down. They're chasing the match after that, and Tigers were very professional in the result they got. Again, the same issues that the Knights had for most of the season. They look very fluid getting into that final third. They just can't find the finishing touch to put some teams away, and they got punished by a very good Tiger side. Nick Taneski pulled out in the warm-up. He went out for a fitness test and wasn't quite right, so they didn't risk him. Just goes to show how much quality the Tigers have got, that they didn't miss him, that they brought Julian Borgner into the lineup, and he did very well indeed. Got the result, as you said, and it was very impressive for them to see that. You know, they've got a good side, haven't they? They've got a really good, strong squad. Some people might think that they can be got at defensively. but Milutinovic and Senior are forming a really strong partnership now in central defence, and they've got a bit of pace out wide in Madafari and Robertson to cover there too. So they've got all the bases covered, the Tigers. The Knights away is a difficult place to go. We seem to have lived at O'Connor this year. We've been to so many games there, and O'Connor have had lots of home games. They need to get on their road soon and see how they pick up some points. I think in June they'll look to maybe bolster their ranks up front. They had chances, as you mentioned. Fakedi Manda's shot was blocked by Cole just before Angelo Santi hit the bar with that header for 2. Would have been 2-1, would have been game on. But they need to find something in the final third as well, just a bit more firepower. They're not far away. They're very close to being a side that will contend, and they'll be disappointed with their second half. But the Tigers, of course, they cruised on again, and another 3 points, and they're within touching distance with that game in hand.
Yeah, and the team that O'Connor Knights are currently tied with also played just earlier than that, Michael. What was the score in the Gungahlin West Canberra Wanderers one?
Look, this one was an absolutely entertaining clash, guys. This was unbelievable. West Canberra Wanderers 3, Gungahlin United 4. For West Canberra, the goal scorers were Vickers and Guo with an own goal, and Ribbon in injury time. For Gungahlin United, Fernando and a Josh Kaspari second half hat trick got Gungahlin United over the line in this contest. Like I said from the very beginning, this was a fantastic game of football on display in West Canberra. 5 of the 7 goals in this match coming in the second half of play. It was the perfect start for West Canberra, as Vickers opened the scoring, capping off a really well worked move that developed from the left side of the pitch before he smacked it into the back of the goal. And then from that moment onwards, Gunners, they thought they had equalised after Nomoski hit the post from a free kick, which was then bundled in off the rebound, but the offside flag was then raised. And then, literally a few moments later, West Canberra then struck the post as well. So they had a very good opportunity to double their advantage after sort of getting off the hook with conceding a chance like that down on their end of the field. But Gungahlin would eventually find their equaliser just before halftime after a great ball over the top from defender Bedrelden Abbas to Fernando, who did very well to take a touch, sit one defender down before scoring into the far corner. And then the second half, it was a little bit cagey to obviously begin with. And then we reached the sort of final 20 minutes, and that's when the floodgates really opened up in this match. And, as West Canberra regained the lead through an own goal from Guo. Gunners, however, for the second time, found an equaliser through a peach of a free kick from Gaspari. Difficult angle for it. So, there was a lot to do, but nevertheless, he found the far corner of the goal to score. At that point, it was 2-2, and then Gaspari would pop up again to give Gunners their first lead in injury time after some great sort of individual skill to eventually work the ball in the box to a few of his teammates before the ball ended up back with him, and he found the far corner. And then he completed his hat-trick, a 9-minute hat-trick from the penalty spot to make it 4-2 to his side before West Canberra would score a consolation goal right at the end through Rippon. But ultimately it wasn't enough, as West Canberra didn't get anything from the game, and it was Gungahlin that got the 3 points. So, there was a lot that happened, particularly in that last 20 minutes. And like I mentioned before as well, it was a very good contest up until the floodgates really started to open up. It was a really tight and contested game. Russ, what were your thoughts on this match? Obviously, the standout performer, you would say, would be Gaspari. The fact that he's produced a 9-minute hat-trick, like I said, to essentially prove to be the difference. But West Canberra, despite their struggles, really put it to Gungahlin United in this match, didn't they?
Yeah, they've had a good week in terms of performances, but they've not got the results out of it, have they? They've gone to Deakin Stadium and pushed Canberra Croatia all the way with 10 men, only to concede the second goal deep in stoppage time last week to lose 2-0 and they back it up on the weekend with a really good performance against Gungahlin United. At 2-1 up with 8 minutes to play, there was a short shock on the cards, and a lot of interested parties around the grounds. I was at O'Connor watching it, and a few people couldn't believe what was going on when we were bringing the scores across, that they were 2-1 up. But, you know, when you need your big players to step up at big moments, when we'll talk about, I'm sure, Monaro Panthers in a moment with their big players stepping up at big moments, up pops Josh Gaspari, one of the best players we've got in Canberra, in my opinion, in terms of his ability. And he just turned it on, didn't he? And it was an individual display that really dragged his team off the canvas. They looked like they were going to get beaten. You mentioned a free kick, audacious finish from out there with the whip and the curl. But that third goal, for Gungahlin, his second, was just incredible. The way he's ran 90 degrees perpendicular to the penalty area, and then changed angle 90 degrees, and changed it again, played a little 1-2 with Fernando, and then curled it in the corner. Absolutely brilliant. And I think he had the captain's armband on the weekend in the absence of Jack Green. And he stood up and was counted when needed for his team, got his hat-trick from the penalty spot, as you mentioned. And the Wanderers will wonder what they've got to do, won't they? They've scored 3 times against a really good side and have come away with nothing again. They've just got to take the positives from it and go, well, we were 8 minutes away from getting a result off the back of a tough 90 minutes on Wednesday. So if they can do that again, it doesn't get any easier for them, does it? They've got Canberra Olympic away this weekend, so it's a real tough one once more, a team that's beaten them 5-0 in round 1. So it's going to be a tough one for them again, but plenty of positives for them to take. They've just got to keep believing in themselves. For the Gunners, it's a get out of jail free card, I think, that they've used up there. Weren't at their best. They haven't been at their best for a while. They've just been playing in patches, and there's a few teams that have done that, but they've got the quality to do it when it needed to. And yeah, kudos to Josh Gaspari, because he was the man on the weekend. And we haven't had many hat-tricks in the Premier League this season, but that one's up there with the best.
Absolutely, Russ. It was a fantastic individual performance, like you said, to really drag his team from sort of that low point that they were experiencing at that time, possibly facing a loss against the struggling West Canberra outfit. And then he sort of just, like you said, had the captain's armband on and had that responsibility to, you know, put the team on his back and get them the win, which is what he did. So,
and we've said all through the season that this West Canberra Wanderers side is probably a bit better than their results suggest. They were struggling to score goals. Now, they may have found the solution to that. Now they've got 3 of them on the weekend. It's not got them a result, but it's like I said, it's another boost in the right direction for them to say, well, we're scoring now. Now it's just need to tighten up at the back and the result will come. And you know as well as I do, and we've espoused this for a long, long time across this show, across many seasons now, that even the teams at the bottom of the table on their day are more than capable of getting a result against the sides that we would think are going to be pushing for titles and top 4 and finals football. And Wanderers showed it on the weekend that they were so close to doing it. What they need to do now is try and back it up and get a positive result, put that pressure on Tuggeranong United above them.
Absolutely. Matt, who's next up in our NPL breakdown?
Next up was Monaro Panthers against Tuggeranong United over at Riverside. It was 2-1 in this contest to Monaro. Tuggies opened the scoring on the hour mark. They had some nice advancing play for this one down the field in the build-up, which ended with Sam Walker whipping in across for Luke Stevens as he was one-on-one with the keeper. He did not miss his chance and buried it past him. Monaro struck back to level the playing field 5 minutes later via none other than Rocco Stricker. Adam New ran down the left wing and placed a pass to Stricker. He was able to hit it first time past Adam Stevens. Despite the mounting pressure from Monaro, Tuggeranong were holding out resiliently in this one. They had a few counters and chances on their own. However, it's fair to say Monaro did have the better of the chances and even scored a goal late on, but it was ruled off. It was ruled for offside. And when I was watching the second half of this one, I must say Adam Stevens had some absolutely terrific saves in this one. Russ and I, of course, no strangers to that, as we called his performance in that CPL 23's final last year for Wagga, where he was absolutely outstanding as well. He's been a quality addition to this Tuggy side. When it looked like this was going to end up in a draw, right at the death, Monaro scored the winner. And who scored, you ask? None other than Rocco Stricker for a brace. Robbie Tachenko whipped a massive ball into the box. Stricker climbed highest for another good header here. This is Stricker's 4th goal of the campaign, tied top goal scorer for Monaro with Connor Minot-Smith. And Monaro are seemingly making this a habit of scoring late in the dying seconds of the match at Riverside. They did it against Croatia a couple of weeks back. It's an important victory for Monaro, though, as they jump up to 3rd place, 1 point above O'Connor and Gungahlin, who are in 4th. And as mentioned before, Tuggies, despite that growing pressure, nearly fought out a draw in this one. They remain in 7th place, 3 points above the Wanderers and 5 points behind 6th place Canberra, Croatia. Thoughts on this one, Russ? I mentioned before how this is becoming a bit of a trend for Monaro. Maybe you can tell me how many matches they've done, because I swear they obviously did it in Croatia and against Croatia at home, but I think they also did it in another match this season at home. I could be wrong. This could be the 3rd time they've done it late.
3 in a row, actually. Because
there you go.
got the winner at the 94th minute
Yeah.
against Croatia. Connor Minot-Smith scored in the 93rd, but it was a consolation against O'Connor Knights in the 2-1 defeat. And then, of course, the Rocco Stricker one again in the 94th minute, again from a header at the same end that he won it against Canberra, Croatia. You wouldn't script it, really. It's quite incredible when you think about it. But I was mentioning Josh Kaspari earlier, same scenario. Monaro had 35 attempts on goal. They hadn't really tested Adam Stevens too much, apart from it cut that world-class save he made from Robert Kachenko, which was an unbelievable stop. It looked like it was arrowing in the corner. He made a couple more really good saves as well, but of those 35 attempts, most of them were a long way away from goal and not very accurate. But they battled Tuggeranong, and they thought they were going to come away with a point, to be undone by a good bit of skill. I mean, the ball in from Kachenko was quality, and the header was superb. The one that was disallowed just beforehand, same combination. You thought, well, is that Tuggeranong's night? Have they got themselves a point out of this? But they didn't manage to hold on. And Rocco Stricker does what Rocco Stricker does. He's one of the best players we have. He's a game changer. He's got that X factor, and he's come up trumps for them again. He's pulled them 6 points out of the bag. It's not only him, of course. It's a team game, but he's scoring the goals at the vital times for them, and it's making it a really big occasion for the Panthers to come out and win. Now they've got this ridiculous win-loss record that I've been harping on about in commentary since the grand final last year, where they've gone win-loss now for about 10 or 11 games, and they've got Tigers this weekend, and according to that, they're on an L week. They need to break that. They've got to break that curse to get themselves into mix. They're sitting 3rd in the table, and they haven't strung together successive wins yet, which just goes to show how close this competition is. They've got some real quality in that team, and they've managed to get themselves a victory on the weekend. I felt for Tuggeranong, they felt 4 minutes was too long to add on at the end of the game, and I guess you could go back and look through the second half and make your own judgment about that. There was some substitutions and some goals, so 4 minutes seems to be round about what we're getting these days, but we are getting an immense amount of late goals, and there was another one there. I thought Tuggeranong defended superbly. They were resolute. They rode their luck at times. You have to. And I don't blame them for having a low block defensive unit against the Panthers away. They know that if they went toe to toe, they'll probably get beat because there's better individual players on the other side that have played together longer and are possibly better than what Tuggeranong have got. But they've fought hard again. And much like West Canberra Wanderers, they're not far away from taking a scalp outside of the bottom two. And I think it can come for them. Mitch Stevens definitely thinks it can come for them. And maybe it'll be this weekend. We'll wait and see. But a good performance all round. Enjoyed the game. I mean, I love a dramatic conclusion, and we're getting bags and bags of them this season. On another note, I'd just like to congratulate Monaro Panthers head coach Ian Worthington, who post-match proposed to his partner Robin Dearlove in the after-match function, and she said yes. It was something that he had asked me to help him with during the week, and we staged a very elaborate setup for him to be able to make that proposal. And fortunately, she said yes. And fortunately, from a Panthers persuasion, Rocco Stricker's goal made it a bit more of a happier night than it might have been had they come away with a 1-1 draw.
Congratulations to Ian Worthington there, indeed. Michael, another team that's riding high is a match you're about to break down now in a massive derby.
Absolutely, Matt. It was Canberra Olympic who arrived at Deakin Stadium and were able to get a 2-1 victory against Canberra, Croatia. A huge result for Olympic,
Yeah, the Canberra Classico delivered again, didn't it? It often does. It's a cracking contest between those two sides. The sending off of Mali Gerbisher after about 25 minutes was obviously key. Croatia having to play 70 plus minutes with 10 men didn't help them, of course. I mean, by the time you mentioned that, they were 1-0 down. They'd inflicted that horror start on Gungahlin in the cup semi-final after 26 seconds. This time they were bitten after 90. Jason Matesha got a hand on it but couldn't keep it out, as you mentioned. And Nick Popovic is in great form, isn't he? He's got, I think that's now 7 league goals in 6 matches and 5 cup goals in 3 games as well. He's just in great form in front of goal. When you've got him and Luca Flores up front, and they didn't even have Thomas James there on the weekend. He was suspended. It's just a great outfit. But the key moment, of course, was the one you mentioned. I've watched it back several times. I watched it with our referees at work several times. It's one of those ones that you've seen him given. The arms, has it come off his chest first into his arm? Has it struck his arm at all? It's just really hard to see on the replay. There's big shouts for it, and as I said, you've seen them given in the past. To compound matters, of course, it goes up the other end, and Nick Popovic scores what is a quite brilliant goal. I mean, you take everything away and take that into isolation. The way he's ridden the challenge, cut inside a second, and then found the composure just to slot home is just absolutely brilliant. Didn't expect anything else for a guy in that kind of form, though. He's just flying at the moment, and everything he's touching is turning to gold. And Olympic will hope it carries on in 2 weeks' time. I hope they've not ridden their luck for the season at Deakin Stadium, because that cup final between those two is now simmering very nicely indeed. Don't know if you saw the whole game, lads, but there was some incidents during the match that showed just how much it meant to players. There was a simmering tension under the surface in a few of the tackles that were going in. It was very watchable And Olympic have given themselves now a good platform. They're top of the table. They've got a 3-point cushion. They put the pressure back on the Tigers, who've got to play that game in hand against Gungahlin United. That's not a given for them by any means. And then what they have done is created a 10-point buffer between them and Canberra, Croatia. Now, for Canberra, Croatia, there's a lot of work to be done, isn't there? There's work to be done in that final third. They've got so many good players. It's finding the combination that works for them, that clicks. When they do, I've no doubt that they will give a team an absolute hammering. They've got too much quality on that roster to be where they are on that league table, 10 points off the top, only a couple of places above the relegation zone. I have it on very good authority that there's going to be at least 2 incoming transfers in June of very good quality. I won't tell you who they are because it's not up to me to be passing that information on. We'll wait for the clubs to do that for themselves. But both of these players, if they come in, are going to make a difference to this team. And you'll see a different kind of Canberra, Croatia. Now, I was chatting today to Matty Gerbisher about this, and I was saying, look, 3 kicks of the ball away from 4 extra points. They've conceded 3 goals in the 94th minute, 1 that's cost them a draw and 2 that's cost them victories. Another draw and a victory. So there's points there that have gone begging. And if they'd had those points, then they'd be higher up the table, obviously. So it's not all doom and gloom for them. And you know what it's like with Canberra, Croatia. There's a lot of pressure on that football club, but they've got the derby this weekend. They win the derby game. If they win that, they go to the cup final. Then if they win that, they're in the round of 32. All of a sudden, life looks a bit more rosy, doesn't it? And everything's a bit more happier in the camp. But it is the most scrutinised club we have in Canberra. They have a very, very impatient support base that want to win every single week. It puts pressure on the players, and you need to be a certain kind of footballer to thrive in that atmosphere. They've got them. They need to be able to now show everybody what they've got quality-wise, and I think we'll see a response this weekend. And as Dean Ugrinich mentioned in the newspaper today, they've got to get 11 players on the park. 4 send-offs this season for players-wise. 3 of them, of course, for 2 yellows. And Steve Domenici's one at Gungahlin, which got him a week span, so it wasn't too bad. But you can't play in this division with 10 players every week. It's going to hurt you.
It really, really is, Ross. That's a great point, I think, that you make. Most definitely. Matt, do you want to go through the NPL Round 8 fixtures?
Yeah, and as we said, a third of the way through the season, we now play the reverse fixtures, and we start with the Battle of the Big Cats Tigers against Monaro, Saturday, May 27, 3 p.m. at AIS Grassfield 2. Then we've got Olympic versus the Wanderers, West Canberra Wanderers, that is, Saturday, May 27, 3 p.m. at O'Connor Enclosed. Then we've got, as Russ mentioned just before, the Croatian derby, Canberra, Croatia against O'Connor Knights, Sunday, May 28th at 3 p.m. at Deakin Stadium. And then Gungahlin United against Tuggeranong United, Sunday, May 28th at AIS Grassfield 2 at 3 p.m. Russ, which ones will you be covering? And before that, and then after that as well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, I'll be at the Riverside Stadium for the Tigers home game against Monaro Panthers, which is a bit of a bizarre one, isn't it? Panthers away at home, but the Battle of the Big Cats Part 2 is my first game. And then, of course, the Chivapi Derby on Sunday, the Knights and the Croatia. Always a good occasion as well. Really looking forward to both of those. Really looking forward to the rest of the week, taking us Australia Cup around to schools. I'm really looking forward to the build-up to the Cup final as well. And, you know, we got the WNPL teams playing in the Federation Cup before, Belconnen and Gungahlin. That's going to be a corker as well. What a day we've got. And plenty of football coming up too. There'll be some midweek catch-up games in WNPL. There'll be some. The Gunners-Tigers game is mooted to be the same weekend as the Cup final, whether it be the Friday or the Sunday. It won't be on the Saturday, but it'll be around that weekend potentially. So we'll have a bit of NPL action there for you too. And as always, a pleasure to come on here and talk to you guys. And I'll repeat what I said pre coming on the record here. Michael Georgieski's Majura Instagram account that your club runs is absolutely incredible. If anybody's out there and hasn't seen it, get onto Instagram, check the Majura Football Club State League account. It's well worth your time. It's one of the funniest things I've seen for ages, and the production values are brilliant. Congratulations to you guys for putting it together.
No, appreciate that very much, Russ, giving us a nice a plug there. But like you said, head over to Instagram and check our content out. We're trying to put as much different pieces of content on there as we can, and sort of as we're sort of getting into the season now, we're sort of just coming up with some new ideas. But one of our sort of most consistent videos is our sort of weekly lineup videos, which we have a lot of fun with. So yeah, we're looking to sort of build the page up. So I mean, if you haven't checked it out, go and check it out. It's MUFC Friends. And yeah, I mean, if you want to have a good laugh or see some good quality content, go and check it out. But appreciate the love, Russ.
It's worth it just to look at your haircut in that preseason videos, mate. To be honest,
it was very, very, very long, and I had blonde in it. It's obviously I look very, very different these days now. So.
No, but it's seriously, it's really good content, and you guys should be very proud. Whoever's putting that together, pat on the back, and yeah, kudos, keep it up.
Welcome back to our NPLW segment, Matt. We kick things off with West Canberra Wanderers up against Canberra Croatia. It was the visitors who got a 5-1 victory in this game. It was Whitfield on the score sheet for West Canberra. For Canberra Croatia, it was Palombi, Muzzes with a double to continue her recent form, Mitchell and Bongiorno in injury time to seal a very impressive 3 points for the away side. Obviously, West Canberra Wanderers, their woes continue, Matt. And at this instance, it was at the expense of Canberra Croatia, who are obviously a great side and they're in form. So despite, in this game being at their absolute devastating best, Canberra Croatia managed to do enough to solidify a 3-goal lead after the first 45 minutes of play, thanks to good strikes from Palombi yet again. Muzzes, who I mentioned at the top, has been in some good form this season, particularly in recent weeks. So that's got to please Zoran Glavinic most definitely, and Mitchell with the 3rd goal to give them that comfortable lead heading into the break. Muzzes bagged her 2nd goal of the game with a nice strike at the near post, Matt. It was a very good finish. And for West Canberra, despite being at that point 4-0 down, they managed to get a goal back through Whitfield with 5 minutes to go before Bongiorno secured the 5th goal thanks to a nice shot off the far post and into the back of the net. So that secured a 5-1 victory for Canberra Croatia. Want to make a quick mention to Amy McLaughlin, who played her 150th NPLW match on Sunday. So congratulations to her for reaching such an impressive milestone. Just goes to show how long she's been around in the NPLW setup, playing football at the highest level here in Canberra. So congratulations to her. And what this means in terms of the league table, Matt, obviously midweek, Belco and Olympic had initially overtaken Canberra Croatia. But after the results this weekend, and obviously we'll get into more of those results for NPLW as the show goes on, it now means after the results from this past weekend that Canberra Croatia are now top alongside the likes of Olympic and Belco. And I do believe, Matt, that it's Belco who, it's a 3-way tie between those 3 teams in terms of points, but Belconnen United are technically top of the table on goal difference.
Yeah, and that's a good good segue. And part of the reason why Canberra Croatia leapfrog back after the midweek catch-up fixtures is because of this great comeback from ANU W. It was 2-2, Belconnen United against ANU W. Izzy Highmarsh opened the scoring in this one on the 18th minute mark with an incredible strike from a free kick from well outside the box. Ball looped in over the keeper, under the crossbar. So sort of we're keeping with that trend, Michael, of these sort of goals in the capital. There's a couple more as well that we're going to mention soon also. Despite hitting the post just earlier, Belco were able to double their lead 6 minutes before halftime. Peltine struck a shot from outside the box, sort of had a bounce just in front of the keeper, and it went in under. The keeper was trying to make the save, In the second half, ANU were able to half the deficit 13 minutes into that second half as they quickly countered, breaking the lines of the Belco defense. The play ended with Sofia Chavera performing a great turn and pass in the path of Sheridan McElligott, who expertly placed the ball past the keeper as the keeper came off her line in attempt to save it. Very well done here from ANUW. Great piece of play. And ANUW were determined to make the most of the position they were in as they leveled up the scores with 11 minutes remaining. Another quick counter-attack concluded with Alexandra Serras finding Roxy Swart out wide, and she placed it past Howarth to make it two terrific comeback from ANUW. As we know, it's no easy feat to get a draw with top of the table Belco, let alone come back from a 2-goal deficit. So well done to ANUW. They're still in 6th place. However, with the draw, they do now lead Tuggies by 1 point instead of tying with them on points. Belco, on the other hand, with the dropping of the 2 points means that they miss the chance to break away at the top of the table by a couple of points. They still remain top, as you mentioned, with both sides, Croatia and Olympic, all on 16 points. However, Belco do have the goal difference. We've mentioned it in a couple of seasons, but it seems like the goal difference might be even more important this year than most, and we're only at the start. So what a tit-for-tat, week-by-week title race we have on in NPLW at the moment, as we are officially 1/3 through the competition. There is a couple of more matches to catch up on, but we're essentially a third of the way through the regular season. Michael, who do we have next up?
Yeah, next up, Matt, we have the Canberra United Academy, who managed to pick up a good win over Tuggeranong 2-0 in this encounter, thanks to goals from De Campley and Neeland for the hosts. CUA, they continued, its fine form, it certainly in recent weeks, to get this victory over Tuggeranong. It was a very good sort of tight contest between these two teams to sort of show you where the level was at. The hosts opened the scoring through De Campley, as I mentioned, through a spot kick in the 23rd minute. And that pretty much set Matty Moore's team up for the rest of the match, obviously getting that nice goal in the sort of opening, inside the first sort of 25 minutes of the game to really put them on a good track to essentially keep up that momentum and go ahead and get a second, which is exactly what they did in the second half to make it 2-0 through Neeland after a good cross from the left side of the pitch in the second half, which ultimately sealed another 3 points for the young squad. And we talked about it at the start of the season about how they were going to bounce back from, the struggles that they endured last season in terms of where they ended up on the table. But they've started the season pretty strong and pretty well, and I'm sure Matty Moore will be very happy from what he's seen so far, and you can only hope that for him and his team that continues. But we have to sort of wait and see. Obviously, it's going to be interesting when they come up against the likes of Belco, Olympic, and Canberra, Croatia, who, like we mentioned at the top, are in a sort of 3-horse tied race at the moment. So, there's other teams that are looking to get into that top 4 situation, and CUA will definitely be one of those teams, having missed out last season. Matt, who do we have last up in our NPLW fixtures? Another encounter that saw points dropped for one of the leading sides.
Indeed, and this match was also one that I commentated on over at Gungahlin Enclosed. This was a very tight affair with a lot of turnover of the ball in midfield, whether it was fought back or won back, too heavy a touch, or it was intercepted. The ball changed a lot in this one. It was just so back and forth and so competitive. Olympic probably had the better of the chances in the first half, up until the goal, which Gungahlin defended resiliently beforehand. But it was despite Olympic having that momentum at the beginning, it was Gungahlin that opened the scoring via Ginger Oliver, who from well outside the box hit a fantastic free kick, a bullet that dipped in under the crossbar and over Janet king. So similar to the Belco free kick we mentioned before. Had a bit of a swerve on it as well, sort of going right. So this was a really great goal. Go check it out if you haven't seen it yet. That was in the 39th minute, so just before halftime. Gungahlin went in with the advantage. Olympic evened the playing field in the 68th minute as a cross in the box was battled out, and Peric had a shot that just went over the line. It looked like Robertson had cleared it off the line, seemingly. However, the linesman had the flag up immediately to indicate that it went over the line. So that is what the call was, and Olympic were 1-1. Olympic had the chance to go ahead late on in this one as Michaela Thornton stepped up from the penalty spot. The penalty was brilliantly saved by Emily Kelly. However, it was called up and retaken. And the second one, Michaela Thornton hit it over the crossbar in the second attempt. So it ended as a draw. This draw for Olympic means that they are now tied on 16 points, as we mentioned before, with Croatia and Belconnen. Gungahlin remain in 4th place with 11 points, 5 off their opponents today and the other 2. However, they do have a match in hand. So if they're able to gain a win in that catch-up, Michael, Gungahlin would be very close to throwing their hat in the ring in terms of they're already competing with the teams. Draw today with Olympic, knocked out Olympic from the Fed Cup, draw with Canberra, Croatia. But in terms of points-wise, if they're able to get a win when the catch-up match is, which it could be pretty soon, I've been told. So when that happens, if Gungahlin can get themselves there, they'll definitely be throwing their hat in the ring, it seems. They've been very competitive so far under Andrew Woodman.
Yeah, you're definitely right, Matt. Nevertheless, we'll get into the NPLW Round 8 fixtures. We have Belconnen United up against Gungahlin United Saturday, May 27th, 3 p.m. at McKellar Park. Follow that with Canberra Olympic up against Canberra, Croatia. That's going to be an absolute cracker. Sunday, May 28th, 2:30 p.m. at O'Connor Enclosed. We then have Tuggeranong United up against West Canberra Wanderers, Sunday, May 28th, 3 p.m. at Canberra 201. Before lastly, Canberra United Academy at home again against ANUW FC, Sunday, May 28th, 3:20 p.m. at Hawker Football Centre, Matt. So some great fixtures there in terms of NPLW action that we will break down on the next show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our CPL segment of the show. Joining us again to wrap up the action after all 7 matches of the first third of the season have been played in the CPL. The only league to not have any catch-up games of the main 3 senior leagues at the moment is Chris Webb. Webby, thank you so much for joining us. And you must be nearly on cloud 9 as it looks like Newcastle have essentially secured Champions League for next season for the first time in 20 or something years. So how you feeling, mate?
Oh, look, there's always something that could go wrong. 2 losses. Liverpool win 5-0 and we're out. So it's not over till it's over. No, as I said to you last time, I think it was the last time we talked, I said it was the first time I actually believed. Then the 2 weeks post that, I actually lost all belief after we drew and lost. So no, it wasn't until the win last weekend and then obviously what Liverpool did last night. So finally, I've actually think it's done and dusted. And yeah, it'll be very interesting times ahead, especially with this crazy new Champions League format that's getting rolled out next year.
Yeah, it should be intriguing and exciting times there for Newcastle fans if that happens. And we'll go from one team in black and white stripes to another. Let's start with Wagga City Wanderers against Canberra White Eagles, a massive 8-1 victory for Wagga. I was able to catch about maybe an hour of this game on the weekend at Woden Park Enclosed. It was Wagga who opened the scoring via Maxwell Prest. This began a flurry of a goal-scoring burst as they scored another 3 in the first half. Cazzola scored next, and then Plonges scored 2 goals a brace to round out an impressive half for Wagga. Some really nice goals in this one, including a chip over the keeper. both of the final ones in this half were balls in behind the defense. So Wagga clearly were targeting that ball in behind and using their speed to run on the end of it. Very impressive stuff, like I said, from Wagga in the first half. After the first goal, White Eagles had some good momentum going. They had a couple of chances. However, after that second goal went in, momentum was all Wagga in that first half. And despite an early chance early on in the second half from White Eagles, it was Wagga that started off in style as Chase Donato unleashed an absolute beauty of a shot. He was right near the end of the line, right on the left side of the field, shot from well out wide, and his shot soared right into the top, far top corner. Stunning goal here to make it 5-0. 4 minutes later, White Eagles scored their first as Zach Lawrence broke the lines of the defense and scored his 6th goal of the campaign. White Eagles enjoyed a bit of momentum after this goal. However, Wagga rounded off the scoring via Jack Plonges again for another goal and a hat-trick overall. Press scored another, and Yoogali made it 8-1. As I mentioned, despite a little bit of early momentum and chances, it was after that second goal, Wagga just seemingly were on another level in this game. White Eagles remain in 7th place, 3 points off the Brindis and 6 points off the top 4. Wagga, like I said, very, very impressive. Some real quality goals here. They leapfrog Belconnen now into 3rd place and are now 2 points off Queanbeyan and 3 points off Yoogali, who are in 1st. Thoughts on this one, Webby? We mentioned how Wagga did last time you were on, but they're in 3rd place now and they've just beat White Eagles 8-1.
Yeah, look, it's super impressive. And we talked about it and said that we didn't give them all too much of a chance coming into the season, even though, again, we've got to caveat all these things. They had a fantastic run last year and were cruising for a final spot last year, and it all came undone right at the final hurdle. So again, they're probably picking up a bit quicker momentum than they did last year. So if they can put in that middle piece of the season, we talk about 3-4 rounds. If they can have a good second rounds, then look, they'll set themselves up well and truly to be pushing in that final spot, and hopefully they can just keep that momentum going on. With Jake Plonges and Morris Kadzol, like 2 fantastic goal scorers in their team. Morris got a lot of creativity, and Jake's just that really big body up top. He causes everybody problems, and he's a handful, and he's a good quality player. And look, they're building a really good team over there, and look, it'll be interesting to see how they go. And I think everybody has kind of struggled with them, and really don't want to go and play them out at Wagga. Everyone finds that a difficult game, and they're very good at home, but they're really adding some of those away games. This one, included a huge win to come to Canberra and put that kind of score on, a stalwart like White Eagles. So fantastic result for them.
And in terms of White Eagles, what do you think of them before we move on to the next match? Before this one, arguably, the points that they've accumulated probably didn't reflect how well they'd sort of done, or how well they've done in those games. Obviously, today was a different story, but what do you think about White Eagles so far?
Yeah, look, White Eagles has been interesting. We talked about them at the start of the year, saying they had a mixed bag of a pre-season where they lost to State League side in the Cup, but then they had some quite good results against some NPL and Illawarra Premier League sides. And so we knew that they had such a huge turnover. I can't remember now, like 12 or 13 first graders. So it's almost a completely new side. So it was always going to be very interesting. Again, a really top quality coach in Angelo coming in. So everyone was like, what is Angelo going to be able to do with a brand new team? And, they had some very strange results at the start. I lost to Juventus, and then, they picked up a massive win over Brindabella. And you kind of look at it and go, they've won 1, drawn 2, lost 4. Yet the goal difference isn't all that bad, actually. It's -6. You'd think if you'd lost 3 more games than you've won, you'd probably have a little bit more of and especially when one of those was an 8-1 loss, to be only -6, it just shows how close all the other games were. They really it was only the odd goal winner against the Belconnens and draws against Queanbeyan and ANU. Like they've really gone out there and competed, but it just shows how tough this comp is when they've shown how competitive they are and they're sitting second last. So we talk about it. Somebody's got to be last. Somebody's got to be second last, and all these teams in here are very competitive.
And talking about competitive teams, Michael, the next matchup had the team that are currently in second place pick up a victory, bounce back from last week. What was the score in that one?
It was 3-1 for Queanbeyan City in this one against Canberra Juventus. Matt, Ariel Ayul proved to be the difference maker in the first half as he scored twice in the 11th and 38 minutes, respectively, to give his side the lead heading into half-time. Veteran striker Nathan Duck stepped up again for Canberra Juventus in this instance to half the deficit in the 69th minute of the game. And that was also his fourth goal of the CPL campaign as well, which means he is the top scorer for his team. Nico Abbott immediately struck back for Queanbeyan after finding the back of the net 3 minutes later to restore the 2-goal advantage, and that meant that the Argentine scored his 5th goal of the season, his Queanbeyan's highest goal scorer. So while this may have been an expected victory for many, it was an important one for Queanbeyan, as they bounced back from last week's defeat at Wagga and kept in reach with Yoogali, who won again, and a 1 point ahead at the top of the table. Whereas for Canberra Juventus, still remain in 8th place without a victory since round 1. They are also still just 2 points off White Eagles, who were the team that they beat in round 1. So those two will battle it out next week in a bid to try and get their seasons kick-started. So Webby, what were your thoughts on this result? Obviously a good bounce back win for Queanbeyan City, but Canberra Juventus stay rooted to the bottom of the table.
Yeah, look, I guess this one was probably as predicted, especially if you kind of didn't take the last few weeks into account. This was things back to normal. Queanbeyan, I think, were missing a few. They obviously had the 2 boys suspended from who got red cards last week. And I think there were a couple more outs there. Basco and Ahaya, I think, were also missing. So, it's a good bounce back for them. And Yoogali, Wagga, we thought really it would be kind of ANU and Belconnen putting the pressure on them for that promotion spot. But, Yoogali are clearly the pace setters. And so Queanbeyan now are the ones who are kind of can't drop too many points. They got to make sure that they stay in that race. So these were extremely valuable points for them to pick up. Gabriel was a fantastic player. I remember him playing at O'Connor Knights, and he was always a torment up front. And so very, very dangerous. It's a great pickup actually for Queanbeyan, and he can slot in there with that what is already a very good forward line. So very dangerous for them. And look for Juventus again. Talking about our pre-season, we said it was going to be hard for them coming up from State League 1 into this league, especially with only a little bit of notice. They didn't have as much notice as they probably should have to get their kind of everything into proper preparation for pre-season. And to be honest, I think that they've done a very, very good job where they are. Look, only 1 win, which is still quite good. But again, looking at goal difference, their goal difference is not too bad for 6 losses. They've really shown that they are competitive at this competition. They're not easy beats by any stretch of the imagination.
Absolutely. Matt, who do we have next up in CPL action?
Next up, we had ANU with a massive 3-0 victory over Belconnen United. It was the university side that opened the scoring in the 23 minutes into the contest as Chase Deans whipped in a cross for Nicholas Hope to header it home. This is Hope's 5th goal of the season, and he is top goal scorer for the ANU so far this campaign. Lopez made it 2-0 before halftime as he converted from the spot kick to give the all-important 2-goal lead heading into the break. ANU made it 3 just before the end of the matchup. Keeper made a save, however, palmed the shot sort of into the path of Rory Spears, who didn't waste the opportunity and put it into the back of the net. This is Spears' 4th goal so far this season. Very impressive victory for ANU as they break away from the Brindis and jump back into the top 4. So also an important victory for them as well. They lead by 4 on goal difference and a tied 11 points with the side that they beat in Belconnen United. And to beat someone like Belco by 3 nonetheless and keep a clean sheet against them is no small feat. So let's see if ANU can use this to boost their momentum going forward as they're back in the top 4 now. Belco's fight at the top of the table seems to have taken a bit of a hit after this loss. As I mentioned before, they dropped to 4th behind ANU on goal difference. They are only 4, but they are, to be fair though, they're only 4 points behind Yoogali in top spot. So realistically, Webby, if other results go their way and they get 1 victory, and they're playing Wagga this weekend, so 3rd versus tied 4th there, 1 more win and they could be back in it again, depending on results. And in terms of ANU, we sort of talked about their consistency last season, but this was a big win for them. Do you reckon they can sort of use this to push forward that momentum?
Yeah, look, I was at the field, so my game that I was coaching was next door, so I did spend a good amount of time ignoring my game and watching this one because it was a nice fiery affair and 2 very good quality sides. So I saw, actually, I think I saw all the goals and quite a few misses, and we can talk about that in the last few minutes by ANU before they picked up that 3rd goal. They looked really good, actually, ANU, especially the centre-back pairing. So young Ethan Tudor-Hope kind of playing in there with Monty Grace. And, it was just that kind of really good combination of speed and strength and youth in there. And, they kind of gave some of those elder statesmen at Belconnen a good little run in there. And I think that they'll probably deserving of the win, ANU, and it's a huge leapfrog for them. I think we talked about it a bit, saying that Tom, he's got a really big squad and a lot of quality across that squad. No one, there's not really a standout 11 there, and that sometimes can cause problems. We talk about consistent 11s. You can really start building that momentum when you can get the same at least 9 or 10 guys on the pitch constantly, and you're only tinkering at the edges. But I think that they've had pretty big sweeping changes from week to week, and it's probably what's led them to not be as consistent as they want. But I feel like Tom's kind of really nailing down who that starting 11 is, and then once he gets that consistent and then the firepower that he can bring off the bench, this game was the likes of Max Model and Rory Spears. It's that's the equivalent of bringing on some of the Manchester City style forwards when they can come off the bench in this league, and it's really quite hard for the opposition to be able to compete with that. So as you said, I think a win against Wagga and all of a sudden they're right back in the mix, but a win against Wagga, that is a lot easier said than done. So they got to prove that consistency out on the pitch. And look, and as for Belconnen, I think somewhat surprising. I think at least from my perspective, and I know a few people I talk, we really thought Belconnen maybe wouldn't walk through this comp because we know how good this comp is, but from the guys that they've managed to hold on to and some of the quality of the youth players that they brought in, but not just that, it wasn't just the names on the paper, but the quality that they showed in those Australian Cup games pre-season. They really looked, honestly, to me, on a very, very similar level to Tuggeranong in CPL last year. Just the way they clicked, the speed, And I thought, look, they would probably be pushing this competition a little bit harder, but maybe it is just that little bit of an element of surprise for them, not knowing what this competition was all about and what the quality is going to be like. And they do have some aging bodies in there, but again, watching some of the game, I didn't get to see too much, but when Dustin and Robbie Cadillac were on the ball, they've still got exceptional class there. It's just probably making sure that the guys around them, they use them properly.
It certainly should be interesting to see what happens when we've got a lot of the top four battling out next week. Talking about the top four, Michael, next match, last up for the round, is currently the team topping the pile.
Yeah, that's right, Matt. Yoogali against Brindabella Blues, a 2-1 win for the home team. Priest and Donadell with the goals for the home team, and Leonard for the Brindies. It was a goalless first half. Seemed to be, quite a tight affair by all accounts from both teams. Yoogali opened the scoring right after the halftime interval as Joe Priest put the ball into the back of the net. This is his third goal of the season. However, Brindabella struck back into the contest 11 minutes later. It was Jacob Leonard who scored his first goal of the campaign as he grabbed the ball, made a driving run down the left-hand side and struck a low bullet along the ground into the far post. So a great strike to bring his side level. Yoogali took the lead again as Ruben Donadell cut inside his marker and squared it for Mason Donadell, who dribbled it outside his marker and smacked a bullet into the roof of the net to win them the game. So this is obviously Yoogali's fifth win in a row and fourth win in a row at home. So they're really solidifying their home field advantage as a fortress in Griffith. And we've talked about that in previous episodes as well. They're really making it a hard place for teams to come and beat them at. They remain top of the table by 1 point over second place Queanbeyan and 3 points ahead of Wagga in third. So they're doing very, very well. Confidence is very, very high with this team. Webby, what were your sort of key takeaways from this game as Yoogali stand top of the mountain in CPL at the moment?
Yeah, look, they started off the competition with two extremely tough games against ANU and Queanbeyan, and they lost them both by a single goal. And we kind of thought, oh, look, that's not too bad. They're on 0 points, but they're quite amicable results against two of the clear pre-season favourites for the league, and then they have just taken off post then. And again, it's one of the things that I love to really judge teams by, especially once a full round has been played, not necessarily by points, but by goal difference. And they are streaking ahead on goal difference. I think, and again, I don't have it in front of me, they're about plus 10, maybe even more than that, and well ahead of the next best in the comp. So, look, they're looking extremely, extremely good. We knew, the quality that they had in there, Joe Priest and all the Donadell boys. And then with Darren Bailey coming back and the quality that he's had and has shown in Canberra's NPL the last few years, was always going to be a big injection into what was already quite a strong team. What is it going to have as big as injection as we've come to see? I'm not sure if everyone would have thought that, but I don't think too many people can be overly surprised about what they're doing. And look, it'll be interesting now that they're coming through on a 5-game winning streak. They're now back into that cycle to play ANU and Queanbeyan again, which were the 2 games that they lost. So if they can, instead of pick up 0 points, but pick up 2, 3, 4, even 6 points there, all of a sudden, they will be really, really kind of screaming red hot to keep pushing the league leaders, I think.
Absolutely, Webby. Matt, do you want to get into our CPL round 8 fixtures before we sign off?
Yeah, and Webby mentioned a few of them there. We've got some absolutely intriguing matches that will have ramifications at the top of the table. First up is the one we probably first mentioned before. Third place against fourth, Wagga City Wanderers against Belconnen United, Saturday, May 27, 2:15 p.m. at Gissing Oval. Queanbeyan City against the Brindabella Blues. This one's always a close one. Saturday, May 27, 3 p.m. at High Street. Canberra Juventus against Canberra White Eagles, Saturday, May 27, 3 p.m. at Ainsley Field 2. And then the last one, most recently mentioned by Webby there, ANU versus Yoogali, Saturday, May 27, 3:15 p.m. at ANU South Oval. Webby, thank you so much for joining us, as always. Any last words on anything before we head off?
No, look, I hope Newcastle can seal the deal tonight, and let's see if Juventus can make it into the Champions League, and we can meet next year. But we'll see how that goes. But look, no, looking forward to this week. It's been a fantastic first full round, and some of these games now are actually quite massive games. Teams that are really pushing each other in the top four. I think the Juventus White Eagles game is also a really big game. Relegation exists in this competition. Juventus will be desperate to avoid being, coming up for 1 year and dropping back down. And could anyone fathom White Eagles being relegated out of Capital League? It would just be unbelievable. But look, long way to go to talk about relegation. We're only a third way in there. But those kind of games, they're just big psychological. When you're in a little arm wrestle down the bottom, those games can carry a whole lot of weight. And but look, I think that ANU Yoogali, that will be a fantastic game. So if anyone can get out there, that would be a game to go and see.
There certainly will be. I might as well say here, since I've ranted to everyone else about it, it is one European trophy for Juve to win in my lifetime. Is that too much to ask for? I think it might be too much to ask for, isn't it? Like, so many close ones, semi-finals, final losses. I'm sure there's people of fans of clubs with a lot more pain than that. But 7 Champions League finals and 5 of them lost. Like, it's just insanity. Yeah, absolutely insanity. And then Europa League can't even win that. Oh my God. Anyway, what can I say?
With all the fraudulent activity,
Here we go.
They still can't win. What else are they going to do?
Mate, can I just say it's a witch hunt? That's a witch hunt. If that happens, you're going to be seeing a few posts from me calling this a witch hunt, I think, on my stories. But anyway, we'll save that for another day. Michael, any last words before we head off? Obviously, you're very happy with Inter being in the Champions League final. Very tough matchup, though, against City. Very slim chance, I reckon, as a Juve fan saying that.
Well, look, they obviously got it done in 2010, and that was in your lifetime, Matt. So you might be able to experience that yet again.
Yep.
If they manage to beat City, so you might have a little bit of might be able to put a bit of a smile knowing that an Italian team other than Juve could get that done for you. But
yeah, I don't think I'll be showing my face in public if Inter win the Champions League again.
Going to go into hiding. But look, that's going to be an entertaining final for sure. Obviously, it's not sort of
right away.
Sort of days or so. There's a little bit of time before that match goes ahead. But obviously, I'll be wearing the black and blue of Inter, waving around my flag. Probably putting on my Inter jersey for that one. So, and it makes it good being against City because I dislike City so much, being a United fan too. So, I've got Inter playing City in the Champions League final, and then obviously United have City in the FA Cup final. So hopefully I can get 2 out of 2.
Yeah, that would be interesting, wouldn't it? Anyway, that's it for us today on this episode 79 of the Canberra Football Show. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Enjoy your weekend, and more importantly, enjoy the football.